Ho ho ho! Happy Hacksmas, agents! Santa here, welcoming you to this week's Ingress Insights podcast, hosted by Pokemon Trainer J. Ingress Insights is a podcast about the Niantic game Ingress. Listen each week for the latest news, updates, and rumors. Share comments on your podcast feed or on our socials in the show notes. And check the merch store out too. I've got you all on my nice list. So, no Dark XM for you this year. I hear one agent has Fit Rep rewards on their Christmas list. I'll see what I can do. Ho ho ho! On with the show.
Additional intel available.
Hello agents and welcome to episode 60 of the Ingress Insights podcast. This week there's quite a lot to cover because it's been 2 weeks since I last spoke to you all about Ingress, with the Niantic trading post taking place of last week's episode whilst I was at a Shard Skirmish. I will go over details for that shortly, but first of all I get into my general Ingress gameplay this week without the Shard Skirmish, and then talk about the anomaly news and get into Ingress news. There's been quite a lot, and Wayfarer news has also been quite a lot, so I expect this to be a longer episode than usual, but I never know when I start recording how long they're going to be. Just want to preface that you can see how long this episode is when you started. I can't yet. So I'll start talking first of all about my Ingress gameplay and what level I am now. For my Ingress gameplay this week / past 2 weeks, I've managed to get myself to level 13. So I mentioned I'd probably be able to do that by the end of the year. Fortunately, I found quite a heavy Machina area, so I cleared that out with an Apex and easily got the last few bits that I needed to level up. I'm now sitting on 109,414 AP, where I need 5 million to get to level 14. So I could do that hopefully at the end of next year, definitely, but hopefully within the next few months I should be able to get through that and get back to level 14, and then slowly work myself back around to getting up to level 16 again, and then recurse for the third time. You only seem to get something for the 5th time. It's only a hypercube. Is it worth it? I don't know, but recursing helps keep me motivated, so I'll keep doing it personally. Yes, outside of the Shard Skirmish, most of my Ingress gameplay was blowing up a load of Machina portals and recapturing those, so it's also helped my reclaim badge go up quite a bit. If you want to share how you're doing in Ingress at the moment, whether you're just starting out or trying to get to a certain level or working on a certain badge, please do so in the comments either on Spotify, YouTube, whatever podcast service you're listening to. If it lets you leave comments there, that'd be great. With my own personal stuff out of the way, I'm going to move in now to the anomaly news. As I said, we had the EMEA Shard Skirmishes, so I'm going to cover the scores for those and what happened there.
This is Shimon, former community manager for the Witcher Monster Slayer, and you're listening to Ingress Insights.
As I said, there was a Shard Skirmish on November the 30th in the EMEA regions. I did manage to attend one of the Shard Skirmishes. I'll cover that after going through these scores. So the overall thing is the main score for the November 30th Shard Skirmish was 80 points to Enlightened and 112.6 points to Resistance. And that breaks down into 18 Enlightened Shards in Bucharest, Romania, and 1 Resistance Shard there. So that's 9 points for Enlightened, 0.5 for Resistance. It was 1 shard to Enlightened in Tampere, Finland, and 20 shards for Resistance, so Enlightened got 0.5 there, where Resistance got 10 points. In Aarhus in Denmark, it was 6 shards to Enlightened, 15 to Resistance, so that meant 3 points to Enlightened, 7.5 to Resistance. For Bremen in Germany, it was 4 Enlightened shards versus 15 for Resistance there. So that's 2 points for Enlightened, 7.5 for Resistance. In Caserta, Italy, it was 14 shards to Enlightened, 6 to Resistance. So that was 7 points to Enlightened, 3 to Resistance. In Castellón de la Plana in Spain, it was 6 shards to Enlightened, 15 to Resistance. So that was 3 points to Enlightened and 7.5 to Resistance. In Kecskemét in Hungary, sorry I got that wrong, but there it was 1 shard to Enlightened, 13 to Resistance, so only 0.5 points to Enlightened, 6.5 to Resistance. In Kristiansand in Norway, Enlightened did not score any points for any shards there. Resistance got 20, so 0 points to Enlightened as I said, and 10 to Resistance. In Malaga in Spain, it was 16 shards to the Enlightened, 4 to Resistance. That was 8 points to Enlightened, 2 to Resistance. In Rennes in France, it was 14 shards to Enlightened versus 5 for Resistance. So 7 points for Enlightened, 2.5 to Resistance. In Salzburg in Austria, it was 9 shards to Enlightened, 11 for Resistance, so 4.5 for Enlightened versus 5.5 points for Resistance, so not much difference there. In Västerås in Sweden, it was 18 shards to Enlightened, 3 to Resistance, so 9 points to Enlightened, 1.5 to Resistance. In Coimbra in Portugal, the Enlightened only got 1 shard, Resist got 21, so that was 0.5 points for Enlightened, 10.5 to Resistance. And then in Cork in Ireland, it was 4 shards to Enlightened, 19 to Resistance, so that's 2 points to Enlightened, 9.5 to Resistance. Newcastle upon Tyne in the UK, it was 11 shards to Enlightened versus 4 shards for Resistance, that was 5.5 to Enlightened, 2 points to Resistance. Then the final Shard Skirmish was in Oxford in the UK, and that was 5 shards to Enlightened, 15 to Resistance, so 2.5 points to Enlightened, 7.5 to Resistance. And then finally there were 2 battle beacon operations. So in Plovdiv in Bulgaria, Enlightened got 453 beacon points versus Resistance 194. So that was 8.5 season points to Enlightened versus 3.6 to Resistance. In Marseille in France, it was 241 beacon points for Enlightened versus Resistance 427. So that was 4.5 points to Enlightened for the season and 8 points to Resistance on there. This now means that the current overall score for the Erased Memories series is 557.7 points to Enlightened, 536 points to Resistance. We do still have the Bounty Blitz 2 and also the final XM anomalies in December, but then that's all. We'll know the final result after those XM anomalies end on the 14th of December. There's still plenty of points up for grabs, so it could all change, maybe result in a tie. It was pretty close last time, I think, by about a point, so it'll be interesting to see what happens on there and how we finish up, and then what happens to the storyline going forwards from there, if anything, after this Memories series, because we're continuing the Memories theme into Q1 as far as I'm aware. Before I get into my own experience in Oxford at a Shard Skirmish for the first time, I want to remind you that, as I mentioned, Bounty Blitz Phase 2 is coming up. So that is on the 14th of December, on, say, Saturday at 9 AM UTC to 5 PM UTC. Last time for Bounty Blitz Phase 1, it was 5 PM UTC to 1 AM UTC. So for that, you have to complete operations in the campaign under Erased Memories Bounty Blitz 2. You should be able to see it as coming soon in your scanner, and it's worth 100 season points, and that's awarded to the faction based on the number of bounties claimed by their faction within the respective phase, rounded to 1 decimal place. So do as many of those bounties as you can, because it says the score is very close at the moment, so an extra 100 season points would be useful to give to your team. Any season points would be useful, as we do only have the XM anomalies left after this, so make sure you fire your scanners on the 14th of December and get that, and then I'll cover anything that's come as a result of that, if we do have it, by the time I record the next show and share that. Next I am going to go over the EMEA Shard Skirmish that I attended in Oxford and just my thoughts on that. Generally this is called a sit rep. I'll mention that in the actual section as well, but I do hope you enjoy and listen to that, and then we'll get into general Ingress news, because that's what we've got for anomaly news for this episode. As I've discussed on the podcast, I did manage to attend the November 30th Shard Skirmish at Oxford, so what I'm doing in this section is to talk about what was involved in that. I might talk a little bit about like my travel there and things like that, but I just wanted to cover what I thought of it and let you know what's sitrep, OPSEC, and what I can't share going forward, but I'll cover what I can in this section. For those of you who haven't attended an anomaly before, there's generally a report like this would be called a sit rep, like a situation report to say what's happened, what's gone on there. It's where we get the name for fit rep from sit rep. Someone thought it was funny obviously at the time when they were making that for Ingress. Another important term you might hear when you're talking about skirmishes and faction things, faction events and bits like that, is OPSEC. So that means operational security, basically not letting the other team know what's going on. So as I said, there will be some bits that I can't share because they might be used in future anomalies by my team, the Enlightened. I don't want the Resistance to know certain ways that you operate and things like that. Similarly, if someone was talking about it from a Resistance standpoint, they wouldn't want to share necessarily what their team are up to and what's happening there. So I'll share what I can and just maybe talk about my travel there quite casually as well. But I hope you enjoy my Shard Skirmish sit rep. Firstly, with the Shard Skirmish, I want to refer back to Brighton, which is where I've attended the Echo Anomaly. So that was my experience of Anomaly so far, being Oxford and Brighton. For both of these, they were quite a long travel for me. I know some agents even fly over to anomalies. For me, this was basically 6 hours of travel on trains, which isn't great if you know the UK train infrastructure. And there were several delayed trains and trains that were full and having to catch later ones and missing connections. Not a great experience before getting there. Then when I arrived in Oxford, I was told that there was some football game going on. I don't do sports much, so wasn't aware of that. So there was increased police presence, so that was interesting to see on the first trip out of the station and getting to my location. I got told where to arrive for the anomaly, so I went to that location, arrived there, and obviously sorted out and got things ready, made sure I had my inventory sorted and had enough bursters, shields, things like that. I'd say that's an important part of preparation beforehand to make sure you get rid of any portal keys you don't need for doing any links, as well as making sure you've got enough bursters. There may be a recommended inventory to have for the event that your group will communicate to you. And then after that, it was a case of waiting for action for a little while, waiting for more of our team to arrive. It was also quite humbling being recognised by a few people, even just by my voice, not necessarily my appearance. So it shows people have been listening to the show, and some people chatted to me about it, which was very nice, said bits they enjoyed, bits they didn't like. So nice to hear face-to-face feedback on the podcast. I also decided to use Zello for this anomaly, which was something I mentioned before, where agents use it as a kind of walkie-talkie system to have a secure channel to communicate messages to teams to say basically what they should be doing, whether they should be traveling to a portal, capturing something, doing something else. So whilst I didn't speak on Zello, I listened in, which was nice to see what was coming in and then understand a bit more about what was going on at the Echo Anomaly for the people that were receiving messages there and leading those teams. It was very soggy and wet towards the end of it, and I remember traipsing down a canal path for the final waves of the portal and seeing a lot of other agents that I'd either knew the names of or recognised from my scanner, and it was very nice putting names to faces and seeing people even on the other team. And then I just wanted to cover some kind of general advice if you're traveling to Anomaly and being at an Anomaly as well. I know this wasn't an Anomaly, but I think a Shard Skirmish is sort of like a mini Anomaly from what I've seen. It's got the same kind of things involved. You still get the medal. So yeah, I think it's a mini Anomaly is what I'd say a Shard Skirmish is really. My main tip would be to take drinks with you and stay hydrated, so a bottle of water, snacks and things like that to keep yourself going during the anomaly, either before and after as well. Depending on your play style, some agents advise to go in dark, which means not hacking portals and playing Ingress basically until you're at the location, till the event started, so other agents don't necessarily know you're there. I didn't do that. I train station and stuff on the way in, so if anyone was watching they knew I was on the way. So that's not a problem. Also, part of OPSEC and making sure you know which agents are which is ideally not talking about Ingress to people unless you know they're definitely your agents. You don't want to accidentally reveal something. One thing I found useful for this when people would be approaching, walking by when we were getting set up is probably not a suggestion some Ingress agents will like, but having Pokemon Go open and installed and playing that when people are going by, so they think you're just a Pokemon Go player. Now that I've said it on the podcast, that probably ruins that strategy. But that's my usual strategy if I think someone is an Ingress player, to switch to another game and pretend I'm playing that rather than Ingress. After the Shard Skirmishes or Anomaly, things like that are finished, there's generally an after party that you'll be made aware of, and you can go there, meet other agents, drink and be merry, in short. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to attend the after party this time round, as I had to dash off and get my train. But I'm hoping there'll be a more local Shard Skirmish or Anomaly or other event like that in the new year, so then I don't have to travel back as much or as long, and I can stay a bit longer. But yeah, that's my sit rep, I guess, and the main points of it are staying hydrated, make sure you've got good inventory, make sure you've got some snacks, make sure you're prepared with things like power banks as well. Take 1 or 3, it's ideal. And then obviously just have fun and make sure you do whatever you need to get the badge. Some agents didn't realize they needed to hack the Shards portal on there. I think for my team that I was in, we managed to obtain 2 of the 5 shards that were part of the event. Similarly to Echo, it was lots of either blowing stuff up or recharging stuff and keeping it going whilst the other team are trying to battle against you. So to any outside person, it might look a bit weird that there's 10 or so people all gathered around tapping their phones, either going recharge, 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 or deploy, 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 or mod, mod, mod. But if you have access to Zello, I'd advise getting that just to at least listen in and hear any instructions, so you know what you should be doing at the portal and where you should be going. All in all, it was good fun, so quite happy to do one again. Like I said, hopefully with a bit less travel next time, but you can consider that the end of my sit rep.
What's up? This is Smooth Guy O, and you listen to the Ingress Insight podcast.
Moving into general Ingress news now, and starting with First Saturday, which has flown by already as you listen to this podcast. So these are obviously now attending in person for the badge, completing the events there. I've run over that quite a number of times, and I'll cover any changes that happen to that in 2025. But the Ingress First Saturday team are belatedly celebrating 10 years of Ingress First Saturday this month. So they've organised a few small codes on their channel, which I'll link to on there, and you can see the global passcodes being solved. And then make sure you submitted any details about any First Saturday events that you ran, and then apply for ones for the new year. So do keep an eye on that channel for any notifications. As I said, I'll share the link and you can see their 10-year celebration. Continuing on with the events, today is Ingress Second Sunday. So listen to this podcast if you listen to it as it comes out, which I hope most of you do, but I understand if you don't have time to listen to on Sunday. Again, Second Sunday has changed a bit in the last couple of months, so this is now doing either 6 new unique missions, or doing scans, reclaiming Machina, or there is something else that I now forget, but you'll be able to use task in your scanner and then do the actions you need to on there. As I've mentioned in previous podcasts, for myself, I've stacked up quite a lot of scans, so I'm going to submit those and then get the tick in about a minute or 2. I think it takes me now once I wake up and that's started. I've still got a little way to go before I get the silver Second Sunday badge. I think you need 6 for that, and I'm on 3 or 4 since it changed round. So I'm quite happy to get that badge and then see what future events are coming up on there, and I will finally have to not get it via scanning and get it by doing missions. I've got a few Christmas missions that are around that I might try and do in early January before they go away. But that's how I'll be getting the badge this time around, by uploading those scans. Feel free to let me know how you're planning on getting the badge for this Second Sunday, or if you're not bothering, if it's not something you're interested in. Speaking of events, the Ingress team have now activated the events tab on the Intel map. So if you go to intel.ingress.com, you'll see map, inventory, social and events at the top. You can now click on events, and at the moment it says about the Second Sunday event. So you can add that to your calendar on Google by clicking there. I assume you can add it to your Apple calendar or whatever calendar you use. And it details that you should complete exploration focus bounties and contribute to the Second Sunday medal in this monthly campaign. That's the only campaign that's on there at the moment. It tells you how long it lasts. It does also have some links available, say registration, Niantic, Resistance, Enlightened. For Second Sunday they don't work, so it may be interesting to see how that evolves for future events, if there's an easier way to register on there rather than going on the website and going through the long list where you find the Enlightened and Resistance group links. As it's December, many agents will be almost over a week into their advent calendars now. And we do also have some other Ingress calendars. So the first one we've got is the Ingress Calendar 2025 by Mr. Chicks. So they've created a unofficial Ingress calendar, which showcases some of the most beautiful portals all around the global portal network. You can get this via the link that I'm going to share and donate via PayPal to Mr. Chicks if you do appreciate it. It's not being printed by them, but you'll be able to get the high quality PDF files and be able to print that yourself if you do want to have a look. I notice many agent names on there that I know, so it's nice to see those images displayed. The next calendar we have is the Hack Vent calendar. So they say, agents, as is tradition in the festive season, the lovely folks behind the Hack Vent calendar need the help of all you elves and imps around the world to fight against anti-claws. Christmas is approaching and so is anti-claws. We have reason to assume he has evil plans yet again. Get your to-do list ready and be prepared to add whatever it takes to defeat him. Join forces with agents all across the globe. Together we can win. Let's save Christmas again. If you haven't participated in this before, what it is a advent calendar of sorts that assigns you a daily task to do in Ingress every day. So whether that's hack a portal or take certain actions. And with COVID being a thing previously, they did also include actions you can do at home if you're not able to get out for that particular day. So I'll link to the calendar and then you can view there and take the actions and do a little extra for your Ingress gameplay every day. It's a nice little thing to do. The final advent calendar, event calendar that I'm going to talk about is the Japanese Ingress community calendar. So I covered this last year. This is where agents and wayfarers sign up to discuss something about Ingress or Wayfarer. And last year there were 2 calendars about this. Looking at the calendar, there's now 3 calendars for 2024. So 2 of them look already pretty full. There's space on the 3rd one if you do want to sign up, and I'll give the link there. Last time I covered this and went through everything as it came out. What I'll probably do this year is wait until everything is done after the 25th and go through the post there and have a podcast episode that's covering all of those, because we may not have a lot of Ingress news towards the end of the year. You may remember that last time Brian Rose was meant to write up an article or do something on the 25th of December for this calendar that I've mentioned a couple of times in the past. He's now done that update for last year, and he's also done his update for this year as well on the 3rd of December. So what I will cover is the update that was on 25th of December last year that he's now posted, and the update that he's done this year for the Japanese Ingress community calendar on the 3rd of December. Covering last year's Brian Rose post that he meant to add onto the community calendar. This is where he's talking to agents at the Ingress Discovery Anomaly in Honolulu in 2023. And that was posted to YouTube on the 2nd of December. So it's fun to see him engaging with agents and talking about the storyline. Hearing agents talk about Machina. It's only a 1 minute 22 seconds video, so it's not super long. So I'll link to that so you can watch it. But that was the entry for Brian Rose on the 25th of December 2023 for last year's calendar. So I'll now cover his note for this year's calendar. Brian Rose's entry for this year for the calendar is called Ingress Once in a Duodecade. So, previously I talked about Ingress's past, and gives a link there. I'll use this note to reflect on the present, and I'll write a new note with some thoughts on the future eventually. And then he shares the video that I mentioned previously. 2024 was primarily about live events, dispatch, daily bounties and global campaigns evolved out of learning from running hexathlons, hex quests and new agent training experiments. We want to keep agents playing Ingress as much and as long as we can, but many new recruits find Ingress too hard to understand and have difficulty getting started. In order for Ingress to grow, we need to keep as many existing agents as we can, and we also need more new recruits to join and stay. Giving all agents small, achievable daily goals is one way to say, if you aren't sure what to do next, try doing this. More than 2x Tuesday, more than our new agent training experiments, more than the handbook, giving agents 4 daily tasks got more people playing more often. Daily bounties didn't just help new recruits, veteran agents who were playing maybe 5 or 6 days a week start to play every day, and when agents play Ingress every day, then deploying, hacking, attacking, recharging to become part of their daily routine. You can form a new habit that sticks, and stickiness is good. But while we could see on our dashboards that more agents were playing every day, as a player I think it was hard to tell because most of the daily bounties were designed to be easy. Recharging, drone hacking, glyphing are easier to complete, but harder to notice than actions that change the game board and show being com, like capturing, linking and fielding. It's not enough to have more agents only recharging or hacking if they aren't also actively battling for their faction. Ingress is more fun when there's a back and forth volley for area control as opposed to total and complete domination that never changes. So we're working on more reasons to play, for agents to travel outside their regular routines and encourage more faction competition. Whereas daily bounties were designed to be small achievable goals that most agents cross off their to-do list in less than a day, global campaigns were designed on top of this system with bigger challenges that span a longer stretch of time and be repeated so there's unfinished business left to complete. We're still playing with different ways to use global campaigns and dispatch in general, so expect to see new events coming soon. Later this week, on December 7th, we'll field test our new server and structure that improves how XM shards are handled. The Shard Skirmish events have highlighted several issues in how shards spawn and how they jump, which, and I hope I don't jinx it, should be addressed in this upcoming field test. Finally, we've been working to optimize and upgrade our render pipeline, which noticeably speeds up app start time. Gotta go fast. Our tech artist Alex will share more info when we ship. All of this is to say the scanner tech that enables global campaigns and anomalies and live events is one thing. The agent community is what powers Ingress and makes it work, and what makes it worthwhile. Looking back on the year, all of my favourite Ingress memories came from hanging out with our community, so here's to making many new memories together with even more agents. Just a few thoughts on this. So this is the spooky action at a distance thing that was mentioned as the impromptu shard event. This has been going on and people have reported things like shards spawning and moving every minute and lots of shards. So it'd be interesting to see what data the team will get out of that and what they can do with it. Additionally, in Brian's note, he mentioned that their tech artist Alex will share more info when they ship. What I'm hoping this is the first of the dev diary things that were promised when the Ingress community forums closed down, which we've not yet had. So it would be interesting to see what happens on that dev diary post and get a further look into what they've done to update the shards. It'd be interesting for Shard Skirmishes moving into 2025. So keen to see what happens. It's nice to have a note from Brian. I'm looking forward to his one that discusses the future as well. Last week there was also an update to the Ingress app, so we're now on 2.155.1. It was a pretty short update because it only says Niantic platform updates and bug fixes. However, agents did find out what had changed, so similar to what I covered before about the Pokemon Go reporting update, you can now add supporting text to reporting any invalid portals. So that could be a link to an image, link to a video, link to a scan, or just further details on why it should be removed, it no longer exists, blocks emergent services. You can give more detail, which will help the Niantic team that review it make a decision on whether it should be removed from the game board. This is a welcome change because on Ingress you're able to report portals from wherever you are in the world. You just need a link to them. So if you do know anything that's incorrect or an agent can't report it for whatever reason and you've got the information, you can then do that just by tapping it and going to report and then choosing a reason and providing the information on there. Now with Black Friday having been fairly recent and Christmas coming up soon, I'm going to talk about things that you can buy from Niantic/Ingress. So first of all, there was an email that went out on Tuesday saying that at Niantic Supply you can get up to 25% off Ingress kits and a bonus offer. Until the 9th of December, you get up to 25% off all Ingress kits. So if you buy 2, you get 10% off the total, buying 3 gets you 20% off the total, and buying 4 gets you 25% off the total. The bonus offer they mentioned is 25% off Ingress apparel and accessories, and that's, as I said, running till the 9th of December. Not sponsored by Niantic Supply, but if you do want to do that, Niantic Supply people, that'd be great. I was surprised there was no Black Friday deal in the Ingress store, such as extra resonators or money off CMU, things like that. I've seen it in various other apps, so it's a bit strange it didn't happen there. But I do next want to talk about things that have been added to the store or will shortly be added to the store on the Ingress app. Since I last recorded, the Clue 2016 medal has been added to the store, so that's a bundle for 30,800 CMU and gets you the Clue medal from 2016, as it says, 5 kinetic capsules and 2 portal frackers, again for 30,800 CMU. In addition, the store has seen a new bundle be added, so you can now get a pack of 5 rare kinetic capsules for 9,500 CMU instead of buying them individually. Finally, coming up on the 13th of December, you'll be able to buy the Sarah Coppola 2024 medal. This is from the character from Ingress the Animation, and again it's 30,800 CMU, and it says it's going to come with an assortment of items. I would guess it's going to come with 5 kinetic capsules and 2 portal frackers, as per the other medals that we've had in this Anomaly series. All of the badges are available until December the 31st, so if you've been holding out or waiting for money to buy CMU for Christmas, then you can pick those up and get those before the end of the year. The final bit of news I've got, I don't know how many people it's affecting because it seems to vary even based on device, but it seems there's an issue running Ingress on Sony Xperia phones that have Android 15 installed. Some agents have reported the game is running at 1 frame per second and not doing great. So if you do have that issue, maybe try uninstalling and reinstalling Ingress, see if that fixed the issue. But if it doesn't, it just may be a case of waiting for an update before you can play, but make sure you report it in the app or on the help center if you can't access the app fully on there, just so the Ingress team are aware of it and can push a fix as soon as possible. If you're experiencing the issue and you've got any more information, do let me know. I don't have an Android device, so I don't know of any issues you might be facing. That's all the Ingress things I've got. I do have some stuff about Wayfarer to go through next, and then also some Spotify wrapped stuff because that's happened for the podcast, so I'll get into Wayfarer first of all.
Hey, this is Sim, Global Product Marketing Lead for Paradox, and you're listening to Ingress Insights.
Firstly, in relation to Wayfarer, there were some issues where some agent hadn't received their codes for the Global Edits Challenge. Those have now all been sent, as well as additional emails to some agents who didn't have enough items to redeem. So if you found out you were missing a rare kinetic capsule, you should have received an email with a separate code on for that. If you still haven't received anything, you can go onto the Wayfarer community forums, and there's a post there where people say they haven't got their rewards that I know Niantic Karen's been looking through and messaging people on. So that's the place to go if you've not received anything as yet. Some Ingress agents have received an email this week detailing something about a VPS activator pilot. So agents that have been accepted into the program report is currently scheduled to run until January 13th, 2025. And those in the pilot can request up to 10 VPS activations per day, with a global limit of 500 activations per day across all users. If you do have access to this, you'll get an email and you'll be able to give feedback in a special forum section on the Wayfarer community forums. You won't be able to see it if you're not in the pilot, but it's a place where you can leave feedback. Niantic do ask you to refrain from sharing your experiences and thoughts publicly with anyone not part of the pilot. So whilst you've not signed an NDA, think of it as signing an NDA and not being able to share outside of that small group. This email says it's sent only to agents and explorers with an outstanding track record in scanning, and it's an opportunity to elevate scanning and exploring experiences. And by participating, you can activate VPS locations that can then be used in Ingress for Portal Overclock and in Pokemon Go for Pokemon Playgrounds. I've discussed Pokemon Playgrounds briefly on here. It's not active as yet. It's in beta, I think, in a few countries off the top of my head. I suspect that now there's some Pokemon Go money behind VPS and getting that activated for their feature. We'll see a lot more portals that get activated for Overclock, so that's a good thing. I've seen a demo of Pokemon Playgrounds. Talk about that for a second. It doesn't seem like something I'm going to be that thrilled to use, but I get that people that do AR photography will like it. Maybe I'm really surprised it's not gone for more of the Peridot audience on there, as that's AR always on as well. But if you do have the email, you'll get a link to the forum. Don't discuss it outside of there. And then, like I said, you've got until January 13th, 2025 to participate in the pilot. And then I imagine the team will look through and get relevant data they need and see what they need to do next from there. For Wayfarer itself, there's been quite a big change. So the option to select something to upgrade next has completely gone. So it used to be you could tap something and say upgrade next, and if you had auto upgrade turned on, it would automatically take that and upgrade the nomination. I think this was due to it now being a bit outdated. Most agents I know that do Wayfarer don't have auto upgrade turned on. They like to be able to select what they upgrade and when, especially now that you can upgrade edits as well. So I'm not overly surprised to see that it's gone as an option. It was probably rarely used by anyone now. Additionally, the category, I think, filter that used to say in voting Niantic and had the little balloon next to it now shows as under review Niantic, so it's clearer on what's happening with it and that Niantic are looking at it, because you see a lot of posts on like Reddit, Discord, things like that, asking what it was with the balloon on there. So I don't think anything's really changed under the hood there. It's just a lot clearer as to what's happening with the nomination. Say Niantic are looking at it, and it may be, I don't know, under review for a variety of reasons, but usually they're just reviewing it to do their certain amount of reviews they need to do. I've talked briefly about power spots that have been imported to Pokemon Go, that they're not great quality, they're a load of generic businesses and things like that, or maybe they don't exist anymore. There's been an update where reviewers and Pokemon Go players can now submit edits on power spots. So you can currently submit an edit for the title, an edit for the location, and these seem to be going into your Wayfarer contributions. So it looks like they'll be reviewed by Wayfarers and reviewers that are going through and reviewing the edits on there. It'll be interesting to see what happens, because many of the power spots don't appear in any of the games besides Pokemon Go and are for photoless random locations in many cases. I've seen like schools, and there's a famous OnlyFans one that was shared by someone that found out something very new about their neighbour they didn't know before. It'll be interesting to see if things change on there, because you can now also report power spots and you do get an email that says it's been reported, whereas before it didn't get that. You just were told, yes, it's been done. But you now get one that says it's a Niantic location report rather than Niantic way spot report. So whether that differentiates and whether that will change for all way spots in future, or whether it's just for these power spots, I don't know. I've tried just reporting a few. There's one locally where someone used to run a dog grooming service many years ago from their home. They've moved out and it's changed, so I'm interested to see what happens with that one. Again, you can put the supporting information on there, so it's nice to see that that's carried across. But I'll let you know if I get any update on the former dog grooming salon that was at someone's house that I've reported. One final Wayfarer thing, which is not really confirmed news or anything, it's just something that some Wayfarers have been posting about noticing. Some Wayfarers think that the machine learning system, some people call it Emily, I don't like that, I think it's stupid to personify it, but the machine learning system that approves and rejects photos, edits, way spots seems to be off at the moment. People have based this on getting nominations that would usually get tossed out straight away, so I've had myself street signs and schools and things like that that I used to see way back before the machine learning was a thing, and definitely a lot in the OPR days when people were just trying anything, and similarly when it first opened to Pokemon Go and people were definitely trying whatever they could. Same during lockdown, I'm seeing that kind of level of coal. So I don't know what's going on, whether it is off, whether it's being fine-tuned. Generally, you do have to make sure you're feeding it data for a machine learning system, checking it works correctly. So maybe it's had to come offline for a bit to be fed more data to understand what it's doing right, what it's doing wrong, and how it can be improved. But as to say, take caution if you are doing reviews at the time. Make sure you're rejecting things that should normally be rejected, as I said, like schools, things like that, because it doesn't seem the machine learning system is picking those up and kicking them out at the moment. That's all this week for Ingress News, Anomaly News, and Wayfarer News, which are the main three we generally cover. So, as you know, if you do use Spotify, it's Spotify Wrapped Season event, whatever they call it. As I say, Wrapped Season is here on the thing that I'm looking at, so I guess it's Wrapped Season. So what I'm going to do now is go through some stats for you. It reminded me of something YouTube used to do, is have a thing called Stats for Nerds. But I'm going to run through some stats such as the top 10 episodes, which it doesn't include on Wrapped, but I wanted to include anyway. And then I'll get things wrapped up for you. So I'll start with the top 10 episodes of Ingress Insights as it stands. If I thought about this a little more, I'd have a fancy 10, 9, 8, 7 kind of countdown. I don't, so we're just going to go through what the top 10 episodes are in reverse order. So number 10 is Inverse Insights number 1, Talking Peridot with Asim Ahmed. So that was where we covered Peridot and the first Inverse Insights spin-off where I wasn't talking about Ingress. Then number 9 is Shared Memories and Stopping Spoofing with Overclock. This is where I talked about what they were doing with stopping spoofing, and it's got a clip from Tory Smith about that. Number 8, one I'm quite happy is in the top 10, is Let's Finally Chat About FitRep Rewards, where I went through FitRep stuff with the Reddit community and just to see what they wanted and talked about what I wanted from it as well. In at number 7 is Review and Get an OPR Live badge. I think people were quite excited about this because it was the first opportunity they had to get an OPR Live badge, and it's why I keep covering Wayfarer at the end of these podcasts because it proves quite popular. There's always some Wayfarer related news to Ingress that's been going on as well. In at number 6 is RIP Ingress Community Forums, which I understand because the community forums are a big part of Ingress. It's been a bit tough to have no community space for discussing Ingress officially since then. Now we're into the top 5. So at number 5, it was an earlier episode of How Do You Say Tuesday? I still probably pronounced that wrong, but it was one of the early episodes covering what the feature was and talking about that. At number 4 was another interview episode. So this was the What Do You Meme episode, an interview with Prime Memes, going over their favourite memes, why they started the channel, what they do for Ingress, and all that great stuff. Number 3, as I mentioned, Wayfarer stuff still quite popular on the podcast, so it was the second ever episode being Breaking News Wayfarer Update, where we changed from the 5-star rating system to the thumbs up, thumbs down, I don't know system. The second most popular episode is the Ingress ups their integrity against Android cheaters, talking about when the Google change was made to up to strong integrity, which annoyed a lot of Android users who couldn't play with modded phones. And then the number 1 episode, I'm going to try and do a drum roll with my fingers, see how that comes through. Not very well at all. Is the very first episode. So Ingress Insights, the introduction, is still the number 1 most played episode. Now that I've done the top 10 that Rap didn't give me, but I thought I would do, I'm going to go through the stats that it actually says on here. So it says 83% of the listeners to this podcast discovered the podcast this year. Makes total sense because I only started it late last year. The Spotify Wrap thing says that the top episode was Ingress ups their integrity against Android cheaters, being the top episode there. I don't know where there's that mismatch. It says it was streamed 126% more than my average episodes. That was very nice. In terms of listeners by age, it's got some stats here that I think I know already because I've had a look at this before. So 18 to 24 year olds are 7% of the audience, 25 to 29 at 8%, 30 to 34 year olds are 14%. The main bulk of my audience is 35 to 44 years old, and there's another quite big bulk of 45 to 54 year olds at 21%, and those over 55 plus, which is the highest Spotify goes, is 9%. I looked this stat up earlier and it made me laugh. So it says that listeners ages 35 to 44 grew the most by 999% plus. I think that's because last year it didn't have a lot of data because there's only a few episodes out. I don't know when it stops counting from for Spotify Wrapped. So it's funny that it's gone up over nearly 1,000%. It's nice that on there. I don't think it's correct. It does say that the podcast was streamed in 40 countries, which was very nice, and the United States being the top country, which I did know. I do look at stats now and then. Spotify Wrap says if you listen to this show, you also listen to And That's Why We Drink, The Joe Rogan Experience, Small Town Murder, Morbid, and Case File True Crime. I've heard of none of those podcasts. And the music my listeners listen to is apparently nerdcore, power metal, and classical. It also notes that this podcast is a top 10 show for 172 fans, which is very nice, and a top 5 show for 141 fans, as well as the number 1 show for 58 fans. So if it came up on your Spotify Wrapped that it was the number 1 podcast you listen to, I'd appreciate that being shared on social media. That would help a lot with views. And then it says some weird thing about what kind of creator are you, where I'm apparently a trendsetter, and it shows me a weird crystal thing. I don't really get that bit of Spotify Wrapped, but I thought I'd share that with you as well. And the podcast rating is still 5 stars, so thank you all very much for rating the show. Again, that's something that helps with visibility by answering the polls, doing the ratings, doing any comments as well. So that really wrapped for this year. Keen to see how it goes in 2025 with things that I've got planned out there. But thank you all so much for listening. I'm now going to get actually wrapped up for the podcast.
Hi, this is HP Rulola, and you're listening to the Ingress Insights podcast.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Ingress Insights. Next week we should have details about the Bounty Blitz 2, because that will have taken place, hopefully, as well as the XM anomalies, depending on what time I'm recording at, because those happen on the 14th of December in Christchurch and Nashville. Besides that, I'm not expecting tons of Ingress news or Wayfarer news. It'll generally be a bit of a quieter time when people go off for holidays, take time off for Christmas, things like that. I've got a few thoughts planned for Christmas episodes, and obviously I'll be covering the Christmas Ingress community calendar for the Japanese community and seeing what posts get put on there and sharing those on the podcast, so I'll cover that. I think we'll also have a new app update before the end of the year, as well as a New Year badge, so that might get announced before the end of the year. I'm hoping Q1 stuff gets announced then, so I can cover that. But next time, as I say, I'll be covering the XML results and the Bounty Blitz 2 results, as well as anything that might have happened in between then. If you think I missed anything, then always let me know. Happy to cover things on there. If you didn't check the podcast feed, last week there was an episode that I did about Niantic trading posts, the kind of failed card trading system that the Ingress team tried to do with a NFT team. I've also put up the 4th episode of me talking about something that's not Ingress. So this time it was a non-Niantic game, being The Witcher Monster Slayer. Still an AR game, and obviously based on the Witcher universe. It was nice to talk to the former community manager about that and see what plans they had for the future. So appreciate anyone that wants to listen to that or share it with people they know did play that game. That's all from me for this week, agents. So hope you have a great Sunday, enjoy Second Sunday, and happy hacking. Thank you, agents, for listening to the latest episode of the Ingress Insights podcast. If you'd like to follow us on social media, you can do that on a few channels. So on Threads under the name ingress.insights, on Instagram under the name ingress.insights as well. Our Twitter/X, which posts episodes of the podcast, is under Ingress Insights, no dot in that one. And you can also watch these episodes on YouTube under Ingress Insights Podcast. You can send us a voice message by visiting the podcaster's Spotify page. And finally, you can buy Ingress Insights merch, such as mugs, pins, t-shirts, by going to freepublic.com/user/ingress-insights. And on there, you'll see all the designs that we've got listed at the moment. There are some new ones that will be coming up at some point soon, but you can buy your Ingress Insights mug, hats, t-shirts, tote bags, anything like that you want. Thank you again for listening. Hope you tune in next week. If you do like the show, please do rate it on the podcast service you're listening to. I look forward to speaking with you all about Ingress again.
Intel package transferred.